Guys, welcome to SheKnowsArsenal. My name is Jessica, and I'm your host. You can follow me on Twitter at JustKnowTweets and at SheKnowsArsenal. Welcome to another episode of the Daily Download, going through Arsenal's most recent news and transfer news. Make sure you guys like the video, subscribe to the channel. Yeah, so I'm back from wine tasting with my friends. It was a lot of fun. I put out like a short, like 15-minute video, just kind of explaining kind of like my thoughts on the whole Zinchenko thing and some of our other transfer rumors. And you guys seem to really like that, so I will throw some more of those like quick 10-minute videos into our content, so I thank you so much for all of your great feedback on that. But I'm back ready to talk more transfers with you guys, and we have quite a bit to talk about. I do think that the conversation around midfield is becoming something that I wouldn't say people are worried about it, but I would say that there's like definitely a feeling amongst the Arsenal fan base that like that has not been addressed yet. Last summer, I was very adamant about Arsenal bringing in another midfielder, and we brought in Sambi Lokonga, but the type of midfielder that I was talking about was somebody that could actually put pressure on Granit Xhaka or replace Granit Xhaka. I do think one of our Achilles heels is our midfield. I think Thomas Partey and Xhaka's, that combination does work, but there's still a limit there. And so there's room for improvement. And I would like to see Arsenal improve this summer, with the money that we supposedly have. But there's a lot of confusion surrounding the midfield position because, we've been linked with several different midfielders, but we haven't really pulled the trigger. We bought Fabio Vieira, who's a great player, but is kind of like a number 10. He even said himself that his best position is 10. And now we're looking like we're going to buy Zinchenko, and there's questions around whether or not he's going to play midfield. I do think there's more of a chance that he'll play midfield than people are thinking. So with all of that, I just want to kind of go through where we are with each of our supposed midfield targets and just kind of have a little discussion on, do you guys think that Arsenal are going to address midfield properly this summer? Or are we going to be looking at, a couple of players that can kind of play there, kind of not? And virtually the same midfield of Granit Xhaka, Thomas Partey, and Odegaard. And is that good enough? So that's what we're going to be doing today. Like the video, subscribe to the channel. There's 150 of you guys in here now. Before we do get started, I did want to put up a poll just to gauge kind of like where you guys are in terms of Zinchenko and where do you think he's going to play. I do think that he's going to play more in midfield than people think. I really do. Something just tells me that he's going to. So where do you think Zinchenko will mostly play? So that's probably not good grammar, but you guys know what I'm saying. Left back, left center mid. So yeah, you guys can go ahead and get voting on that. Turn off my notifications. And let's go ahead and jump in. So with Zinchenko, we'll start there. I personally am excited about this signing. I'd said that on my last video. We were linked to Zinchenko before we were ever linked to Lisandro Martinez. He was the first left back we were linked to. And I think most Arsenal fans were like, that's the player that we should go for. At the same time, we were kind of linked with Aaron Hickey and, watching those two kind of battle it out per se, for Scotland versus Ukraine. I think it was pretty clear that one player was superior to the others. Zinchenko is a much better player than Aaron Hickey. And he's also probably better than the players that we have playing at left back now. So I think for 30 million pounds, 30 to 35 million pounds, this is a very smart deal to do. Obviously, he's not the best defender per se, but he is the type of left back that most of what he does is on the ball. It gives you the advantage on the ball. And let's not sit here and act that like over the last couple of years, defending for fullbacks has not become somewhat of a second, somewhat of a less of a priority for teams. People are looking for fullbacks that can affect the attacking third, and that's exactly what Zinchenko does. I did see that there was a little comparison done on Sky, and I do think I retweeted it, so I'll show it to you guys. Also, I think Connor posted it as well, so I will show it to you guys. Here we go. Okay, so this is a comparison. This is 2021, 2022, so per 90 last season, of Zinchenko, Tierney, and Tavares. So two of them played for us, one of them played for Man City. So the source is Opta. For minutes played, actually, Zinchenko played less minutes than both Nuno Tavares and Tierney. Goals conceded, 0.78 for Zinchenko per 90, 0.99 for Tierney, 1.46 for Nuno. When Nuno was playing, we definitely were a lot less solid in the back. Tackle success. This actually surprised me because a lot of the narrative around Zinchenko is that he's like a terrible defender. And I was watching, the Arsenal Vision scouting video on him, and they showed him kind of diving in and stuff like that. But his tackle success, per 90 is actually better than Kieran Tierney and Nuno Tavares. Interceptions, his numbers are better there too, with 1.21 per 90. Kieran Tierney is at 0.7, and Nuno Tavares is very similar to that at 0.69. Chances created, 1.38 per 90. Kieran Tierney is at 0.94, and Tavares is at 0.77. So obviously, in the chance creation department, which is really important for our left back, I do think there was a lot of criticism around Kieran Tierney and what he was doing on the ball for us last season when he was playing more of that inverted role. And Tomiyasu was out and Cedric was bombing forward. Kieran Tierney doesn't have the passing range to be an inverted fullback. He was doing the best that he could, but you could just tell that there was a little bit, it was clunky on that side, with Granit Xhaka playing a more advanced left center mid, Kieran Tierney playing more inverted, and Martinelli there on the left side. It was clunky. It didn't work. Our left side was significantly less effective than the right. And I think a lot of that had to do with the fact that Kieran Tierney is just not a passer. Like, that's just not his bag. Like, he's definitely a push it past you and knocking across. And so I would say that I do think Zinchenko is not as athletic as Kieran Tierney, but his delivery is better than Tierney's in terms of like the variation of crosses and his variation of passing. And then dribble success, Zinchenko has 4.31 per 90, where Kieran Tierney is at 1.56, and Nuno Tavares, who is a pretty good dribbler, is at 3.38. So obviously all statistics need to be taken with a pinch of salt, or not necessarily a pinch of salt, but context always needs to be applied, because we all know that Zinchenko plays in a better team. So obviously, like, his goals conceded are going to be better because, Manchester City, they control the ball a lot more. But what you do see that I don't think it can't really be disputed is what he can do on the ball versus what our two fullbacks can do on the ball. Kieran Tierney and Nuno Tavares, to me, are more kind of push it past you, cross it in. Nuno, what he has that Kieran Tierney doesn't have is the ability to use his right foot and cut inside. But we need more variation to our game, and I do think Zinchenko gives you that at left back. So I did like that comparison because it gave you kind of like visual representation of what's different between our fullbacks at the moment. So with Zinchenko, he's obviously, I do think that Arsenal, because Kieran Tierney is once again unfit, the injury list, came out after or before after the game against Everton, and the same people that are usually injured are injured again. Emil Smith Rowe, Tomiyasu, and Kieran Tierney. And so Kieran Tierney could barely get through 30 minutes in the game against Nuremberg. So getting Zinchenko in now would be good because we could integrate him and he could be ready to start at left back at the beginning of the season, until Kieran Tierney can get fit again, But here's where, I question just a little bit of like, it's not really a question, but I do just want to throw this out here that, you know, this is coming from 90 Min, and this is not the first time that we've heard this. When Sam J. Dean originally reported Arsenal's interest in Manchester's in Zinchenko, he said that he wants more minutes at midfield, and Arteta is willing to offer him that. So Arsenal are close to signing Zinchenko. Personal terms not expected to be an issue. Zinchenko wants to play in his preferred midfield position, and Arsenal are prepared to offer it. This is not the first time that we've seen this. So, obviously on social media, there's a lot of like, he's going to play left back and we're still going to get another midfielder. But where are we going to get these midfield minutes for Zinchenko from if we bring in another midfielder and all of that? I do think he's kind of the perfect option to play in left center mid with the way that we play it now. With Xhaka, what he really lacks is that ingenuity and creativity and technical ability getting near the penalty or the final third. That's where he really kind of like, he does, it's not, I wouldn't say he struggles, but he just leaves a lot to be desired in those positions. And also what Xhaka likes to do is drop back into left back and allow the fullback to bomb forward, and he kind of dictates play as kind of like a left center mid from the left back position. Zinchenko can do all of that with his eyes closed. And so, no, he's not maybe as good of a defender as Granit Xhaka, but my thoughts on Granit Xhaka being a good defender is just he's in a better position. He's positionally aware now. Arteta's really worked with him on his positioning, and so that makes him a better defender, but he's really not like a great defender per se. Neither is Thomas Partey. Our distances are better. Our positioning is better. It's just the way that our system is set up. Our players don't get as exposed in midfield. We are very compact when we play. We don't get stretched. And so I do think that would help somebody like Zinchenko, who's not an amazing defender. So I think he's going to play more midfield than people think. If Kieran Tierney is fit, I would imagine that he would play at left back, and then that would open up the opportunity to play Zinchenko as a left center mid. Some people are not happy about that because I do think there's the idea that we want to go big in midfield, but it just doesn't feel like we're moving towards a big midfield signing at the minute. It just doesn't. So there you go. And also on Nuno Tavares, which is interesting, is that, let's see. It's interesting is Nuno Tavares is not close to going to Marseille. He's not, I guess he wasn't convinced by going there. I actually don't think we need to loan out Nuno. I don't. I think Nuno needs more development, and yes, he could probably get more of that somewhere else. But I'm actually, as long as we get Zinchenko, I'm actually not really stressed about Nuno Tavares being there. I think he has some qualities that we could use if we use them properly. So I'm seeing some more tweets that have just come out. Mikel says Arsenal's first team squad isn't yet complete ahead of the new season. Yeah, no, it's nowhere near. We need at least 2 more signings. This is coming from Fabrizio Romano 12 minutes ago, basically saying that there's an agreement between Arsenal and Manchester City since Friday, 30 million pounds. Talk still ongoing on personal terms. The clubs want a final decision within the week. Zinchenko is keen on joining Arsenal, but contract details are still being discussed. So, you know, it looks like final talks or whatever. I don't like the way this is being reported. Like, I mean, some people are saying personal terms shouldn't be an issue. Some people, he's like, well, things need to be ironed out. Hopefully, it's just straightforward and we can figure out, what's gonna, we can figure out the contract situation. But what do you guys think about Zinchenko playing in midfield? Do you think that he's going to play more there or no? Or do you think that we're going to bring in a big midfield signing? I just am not sure. I believe that. Kandwani says, I suspect contract details are about playing positions. If Zinchenko is going to leave Manchester City, he's not only going to want assurances on where he plays, but how much he plays. He's not coming to Arsenal to sit on our bench. That's just the reality. He'll want to work for his position, obviously. But the original reports, with our interest was that he wants to play in midfield. He wants some playing time there. So the idea that he wouldn't be playing there, I think, is a little bit like people are just, they don't want to believe that he would play in midfield because that would mean that potentially we wouldn't get another midfielder, you know? But come on. Tarun says he'll be used as an inverted left back who slots into midfield. Craig says journals been guessing all window, including Romano. Abdul says most likely agent commission. Let's see. Joshua says Arsenal being cheap with salary once again. I don't know if that's necessarily what it is. We don't actually know what it is, but also, I do think we have a sense of like everything should be done really, really quickly. And what we saw with like Gabriel Jesus is that we pretty much knew the deal was done. And then there was like this period of time where personal terms needed to be figured out. So of course, when you have good players coming from better teams that are leaving nice cushy positions where they're going to be winning trophies to come to Arsenal, you're going to have to pay, so I do think that, personal terms, although, they probably won't be an issue. There needs to be some negotiating done. And so, I wouldn't worry about it too much. I mean, it's kind of like, oh, I just don't like hearing it because it gives you that little sense of doubt. But like the idea that look how far we've come. Like it's Friday, it was originally reported that like it was close. It's Monday now, and now it's personal terms. So, and everybody wants it done by this week. So let's just like chill just for a second. Let's see. Matchy says, I don't think Xhaka is a bad player at all, but can't help but feeling a bit flat when we start the new season with our midfield being Xhaka and Partey. I mean, we just don't seem this is what it looks like outside looking in. I can be completely wrong, but there doesn't seem to be a prioritization of improving the midfield beyond Granit Xhaka. There is a sense for me that we are completely comfortable with that being our starting midfield combination, and also not creating any sort of competition for Granit Xhaka's position, which is very, I think, setting ourselves up for failure again. There's just our midfield could be better. Like if they think that there's no way really to improve upon Granit Xhaka, then I just question what we're doing. Keenan says we have yet to see Vieira play. Maybe SMS, Zinchenko, and Odie will all compete for minutes at 8, and Vieira will be more of a utility player, spitting off time at right wing and right center mid. Well, we haven't signed SMS, so I don't know. But in terms of like Zinchenko and Odegaard, I think they'll both play in the 8 positions. I do think that if Zinchenko were to play in the 8 position, I do think he creates more like assists. He's more like on the edge of the box, making things happen than Odegaard. The feeling that I got around Odegaard when we were watching the preseason matches that he's dropping deeper, and he doesn't get on the edge of the box to slip in that last final ball, to the player for the assist. And so we are missing that player. We're missing those players that like to get at the edge of the box and have enough, I'm not saying that Odegaard doesn't have these qualities, but he really doesn't operate in and around the box. He's more in the half spaces and kind of deeper. And so I do think that you kind of look at Granit Xhaka, Thomas Partey, and Odegaard as a good midfield, but nobody's quite penetrating. Nobody's really making third man runs. Nobody's really, getting in there, taking shots. It's very much so a midfield that likes to live on the periphery and dictate from deep. So, Zinchenko and Vieira, I do think have more of the ability in and around the box to make things happen and get assists. That's just me though, and I do think we miss that. Odegaard's a very, very good player, but he does not, he's a lot of times the pass before the pass. He's definitely not operating around the box anymore. So yeah, Craig says Odegaard has to come deeper because the other players don't create much. Fair enough. Maybe that would make it easier if somebody would push up. Maybe that's where the left center mid comes in, and if you move Xhaka out. But there's just a lack of creativity. We have a lot of possession, and our buildup is a lot better. But when it comes to getting in and around the box, I do have a sense of like, Gabriel Jesus was coming deep and creating, and I want our wingers to get on the end of moves. I don't want them to be the creators all the time. And so I don't think there's a good, the midfield, it works, but we need to take somebody out and get somebody that likes to be on the edge of the box, making things happen, that likes to get, in positions to get crosses in, make third man runs. There's just not enough of that. I think Vieira does some of that. So yeah. Paul says that ESR has creativity, better he retains to work deeper than warm the bench. Better he retrains to work deeper than warm the bench. I'm going to disagree with you. I don't think ESR is creative. I think that he has physical tools that, are good. Like his dribbling is good. His when he's fit, he can burst past people. He can progress the ball with his dribbling. But in terms of creativity, the ability to make things happen on the edge of the box, to make the right decision, to put the right pace on a pass, I don't really feel like he has that in his locker. But he has good physical tools that we really could use as well. But again, he's somebody who's, again, he's not fit. And it's annoying, I have to be honest, so there you go. But there's 426 of you guys in here. Like the video, subscribe to the channel. Feels like there's some new people in here. So if you guys haven't subscribed, make sure you guys do. That's kind of where we are with Zinchenko. It does feel like it's going to get done. Hopefully Arsenal just make sure that they agree the deal and just don't, mess it up. But let's talk about Paqueta. Another strange one. Looked like we were moving towards trying to get a bid in for him, and then all of a sudden, it dropped off a cliff. It was also like right before we got really serious about Zinchenko. So I wonder a little bit if, not really a smokescreen per se, but like if we were putting things out there to try to get this one done, get Zinchenko done. But, just some of the original reporting on this, was that, let me see. Paqueta to Arsenal is very possible. Arsenal are going to make contact with the player before making a bid. Lyon wants 65 million euros. That was coming from Ben Jacobs that was like almost a week ago. Now, earlier today, coming from, this is, I think, Peter O'Rourke, saying Gabriel Jesus and the rest of Arsenal's Brazilian contingent could help lure Paqueta to the Emirates this summer, which is basically just a guess. OL Olympic Lyonnais could accept a cut price 40 million euro fee for Paqueta. That's coming from Mediafoot today. And from Fabrizio Romano. This was 3 days ago, said Arsenal are working on Saka's new deal, then want to sign another winger in the coming weeks. Paqueta is not a priority. So, you know, this looked like something that was happening, and then it just kind of halted. Very similarly to Tielemans. 1 minute it looks like it's happening and we're going to put in a bid, and then somebody comes out and says that they're not a priority or we're cooling interest or whatever. So, this is one that I'm just not really sure how to feel about it, because there was a lot of really reliable journalists talking about this as if we were going to put in a bid. Risa, from Goal Brazil, she was talking about it as well. So I'm not quite sure what's going on here, but it doesn't feel like we are actively pursuing a midfielder as aggressively as it's being reported by different journalists, because every time we kind of look like we're going to put in a bid, we don't. Early on with the Tielemans links, when it originally was kind of being reported that it had cooled down, Ornstein was also saying that maybe some sales need to happen. And I've seen that appear again, that some sales might need to happen before we're going to wait to the end of the window until we get some sales. Though that type of reporting to me just feels very, we are not prioritizing midfield. Maybe Arsenal have a big attacking signing that they're looking at for the end of the window. And maybe that's why getting somebody like a Zinchenko or Alessandro Martinez was really important, because they can cover in midfield as well, but also play left back, which is really important for us. But it really doesn't feel like to me like we're going after a midfielder as hard as like it's being reported. So that doesn't fill me with a lot of confidence, because honestly, you guys, I do feel like if we were going after a midfielder, we would have done it by now. All the work that we did on Tielemans is kind of just, it's kind of just dissipated. Paqueta we were going to put in a bid. Now he's not a priority, but also Fabrizio Romano said that he anticipates us looking at a winger in the next couple of weeks. And, he knows the name, but he can't put it out there yet. So there might be a big attacking signing that we're looking at, and we're not willing to use the money on a midfielder. And that's why you get Zinchenko. We already got Vieira, and the club to me looks happy with the midfield options that we have. They re-signed El Neni. They brought in Vieira. Zinchenko can also play in midfield, and Granit Xhaka and Thomas Partey are just like, that is the midfield, so it's disappointing. I don't know for sure, but Paqueta 1 minute, looks like we're going to put in a bid. Next minute, he's not a priority, and he's just sitting there. And I was talking to somebody on Twitter, I forget who it was, and I was like, just prepare yourself for him to potentially end up at Newcastle. And he was kind of like, why would you say that? And I'm like, it wouldn't be the first time that, you know, our interest would be used to get somebody to act. And one of the reasons why Newcastle had not acted on Paqueta was, one, there were some loose reports that he had rejected them, but also they felt like the fee was too high. Now all of a sudden Lyon are willing to, take 34 million pounds for him. Don't be surprised if he ends up at Newcastle. That's all I'm going to say right now. Right. Right Case says, who might be the winger? I don't see any realistic or experienced good wingers. Ramit says Moussa Diaby will be the perfect as a Rafinha alternative. Saida says, I'm hoping Zinchenko is being looked at as more of a left back with an option to play midfield. Him agreeing to join would probably mean that we promised him significant minutes in midfield, though. That's kind of where I'm at, to be honest. I don't think he's, not going to play in midfield at all. Keenan says, if Zinchenko is playing left center mid, Xhaka is a solid backup in our system. He's honestly playing really well in the starting 11. Yeah, it's not that I don't think that Granit Xhaka is doing a good job. I do think that he's playing as good as he's played the last 2 seasons for Arsenal have been the best that I've seen him play. So, but there's still a limit there of what he can offer us in the final third. And we are a team that really struggles in creating chances and scoring goals. Even though we played well against Everton, I saw some of the same issues going forward. We weren't really creating a lot of chances. It was very much like we got the goal off of the set piece, and there was one flowing move that was started by Gabriel Jesus. But other than that, there was a lot of passing that ended up not really uh, turning into a chance on goal. And I do think that that has something to do with the midfield not having players that they, first of all, they can't progress the ball with their dribbling. Xhaka and Odegaard are very much like passers. They're not going to dribble past you or anything like that. But there's no third man runs, and they don't get in and around the box and thread the needle. It's very much like the players that are creating are Saka and Martinelli all the time, you know? So we lack that. And so Granit Xhaka can play well in left center mid all he wants. He could, for Granit Xhaka, he can have a 10 out of 10 game in that position as much as he wants. But ultimately, when I look at it, I just think there's a limit there. And so I would like to see somebody else in that position. I do feel like sometimes once you see something, then you realize what you were missing all this time. And um, settling with Granit Xhaka just feels like we are acting like we can't get better than him, and we can. Um, Gunnar says, Gunnar Work says, I'm kind of concerned about our cover for Partey. We had one of our worst stretches last season when he was out, and I don't have faith he'll stay fit. He's a single point of failure. This is 100% true. He is a single point of failure. And the more that you watch him play, the more obvious it becomes. When he's in there, we look like a top four team. When he's not in there, we look mid-table. So not having somebody that can step in and do the same job as him is a worry. And this is why, having so much, a potential, you know, good budget this summer and not using it to really improve midfield, to me, feels like another mistake that we're going to be talking about throughout the season. We're going to be discussing once again, our midfield wasn't strong enough. We got a couple of injuries or whatever, and it was done. So there's just no way that El Neni and Lakanga are going to be able to do it. They're just not at the same level as Granit Xhaka and Thomas Partey. So either one of them are gone, because even with Granit Xhaka, like maybe Zinchenko can play that position and that's good, but like Sambi is not up to that level either to play in the Granit Xhaka position. So then you're spreading yourself thin. So what happens if Granit Xhaka's out, which doesn't happen often, but happened last season unexpectedly? Then you move Zinchenko there. Then what happens at left back if Tierney's injured? Because we know once one injury comes, they all start falling, like they're all fallen soldiers at one time. So again, not spending the money on like two really good midfielders, it just feels like we're just still pushing it on, kicking the can down the road. And that sucks. It does, like, because I just think our midfield is just not it. It's not good enough. It's good when you have your starting 11, but how often do you have your starting 11? There's 457 of you guys here. Like the video, subscribe to the channel. And again, I don't mind if Granit Xhaka stays. I just want us to move beyond him being the number one option all the time. All the time. P. Trim says, Jesse, you're very correct. A midfielder that can beat the press and progress the ball from deep midfield is what is required. Partey does it somewhat, but is he a DM or what? Thomas Partey is kind of like the unicorn in our team. Like I said for a while, he's not a DM to me. He's not a traditional DM to me, and I stand by that. But the way that we play, we don't play with a destroyer. We play more with somebody that can dictate play and get us to beat the press from deep in midfield and start all of our moves. When we're like against Everton, you just saw that he just collects the ball from the center backs and just starts all of our moves. And like really, Everton, they tried to press him a couple of times, and after that, they just they moved away from him. They stopped pressing him, and that's what he does. We don't have another player that has that type of authority on the game, where they press him a couple of times, they lose out or they foul, they can't make it work, and then they just stop pressing them at all. We don't have anybody else like that. And players on the market that can do that are very expensive. So, you know, there's no real combination of midfielders that we can put out there that can do what Partey does. So it does worry me, um, that we don't have anybody else. But in terms of like a midfielder that can beat the press and progress the ball from deep, somebody like kind of like a Kovacic in a way, somebody with good close control that's basically press resistant, that can progress the ball with their dribbling, not necessarily a passer, but obviously you want somebody who can pass the ball decently and kind of be a connector between midfield and, Odegaard or Gabriel Jesus or somebody like that. We really lack the dribbling ability in midfield. So we need to address that, I think. We have enough really nice, neat passers. We need something a little bit different in there. And I do think that, like we've seen like Zinchenko, like his dribbles are pretty good. Like he's definitely somebody that can progress the ball with his dribbling. But we need another player too. Aya says with Zinchenko coming in, the more I don't see us getting another midfielder. It's wishful thinking, guys. We're probably going to get a big transfer, go for a big transfer after Zinchenko like Sané. I think we're going to go after a big attacking signing. I do agree with you. I do think that bringing in somebody that can also cover in midfield was also kind of like we want to get a big attacking signing. Now, would a big attacking signing paper over some cracks? Absolutely. We've seen in the past that when you have world-class players in your attacking in the attacking, third, it can cover a multitude of sins going on behind that group. Like, you know what I mean? Um, you look at like Alexis Sanchez and Aubameyang are two really good examples of that. They were not playing with very good Arsenal teams, but because they were so good, we kind of just got through it. So do I think a big attacking signing could kind of make up for not improving the midfield a little bit? But it can't be a Gakpo or, somebody that needs, Noah Lang. It can't be that. It has to be somebody that's really going to move the needle. Otherwise, you need to be spending that in midfield. So there you go. But, and I do see it in the comments that some people are saying like Xhaka mistakes. That's mostly my biggest issue with Granite is not just like, of course he limits us going forward, but it's just like the brain farts and the unnecessary fighting and the red cards. That's really what gets me because you're out for a couple of games. And because he's also somewhat of a really important player in our first 11, it just doesn't work, and I don't know why he continues to do that. Um, so yeah, I think whatever Arsenal are working on in terms of an attacking signing, I'm hoping that, it would make up for not getting a midfielder, but there you go. RD says best midfielder in the Premier League after De Bruyne is Kovacic. I think you're a Chelsea fan. I would say if that's your reality, then fair enough. I think Kovacic is a very good player, though. So that's basically what's going on with Paqueta. Just talking about Milinkovic-Savic. We've been preparing a bid for a very long time. So what we've kind of seen in this window, I do think, is that when Arsenal want a player, they act quickly. If we don't act quickly, it's probably because we're not serious about a player. That's just not how we operate. Gabriel Jesus was pretty quick for a big signing. Make no mistake about it. It's a big signing. And there was never a cooling interest or a other priorities or anything like that. He was always our priority. We were always working on it. We were always in contact with Manchester City. We were always trying to get that deal done. Vieira was like in a second done. And Zinchenko has moved pretty quickly. From Friday to now, the deal is like 90% done. So, when you have something like this where you're getting Italian outlets keep saying that you're preparing a bid, you're preparing a bid, you're preparing a bid, it just kind of feels like we're being used, to be honest. So, I know that Juventus are interested in Milinkovic-Savic, and I wouldn't be surprised if they put in a 30 million pound bid with I don't know, 40 million pound bid, and he goes there. I just don't see it being, a real link, because I get that we're moving in silence, but also when we move in silence, it's kind of like the link happens, then the deal is almost done. This is just consistent, very faint links that have not come into anything. So with Milinkovic-Savic, I know that it would be a massive signing, and this is a player that we probably should be looking at. But in the past, he's also said he doesn't want to leave Lazio for, you know, um, anything but a Champions League team. And not only that, Lazio has also said that one of the world's best teams need to come in and get him. So I think they're also angling for Juventus to come in and get him. So I just don't really feel like this is a real thing. I would love to be wrong. But again, moving in silence is also like we move in silence and then the link is there and then bam, advanced talks, moving forward, blah, 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 blah. Not this long saga where we don't hear anything about it. So, unfortunately, like, I don't really want to spend that much time on Milinkovic-Savic because I don't really see it being anything. But I get that people really would want him because he'd be the type of signing people would be excited about. Gunaway says, I agree, Jess. McKellen and do really know who they want, acting aggressively on their targets. Let's see. Sammy says another attacker in January. Jesus and Nketiah are enough for half of a season. Defensive midfielder is a must now. Ben Kaz says, I think Arteta believes in Granit Xhaka and is not planning to buy another midfielder. Craig says Milinkovic-Savic would be a massive signing. Lord Gunnar says, how good is SMS anyway? I haven't seen him turning heads among the big clubs. If he was half decent, he would have been a Juve player. That's another thing. I always look at like, so why is he still there? Like, why is he still there? I wouldn't be surprised if he was a Juventus player by the end of the window. That's, I like to read both sides of a story to get a good sense of what's going on. And Juventus are interested in him. And I think Lazio are trying to lure them out with the idea that he could potentially end up at Arsenal, which he's not. You're not preparing a bid for 5 weeks. It just is not it, So yeah, I don't think anything is going to happen with that, but he would be, I think, a good signing, like in terms of what I've seen, but also nobody else has really went for him. So yeah. There's 470 of you guys in here. Y'all better be liking this video and subscribing to the channel. I'm about to look right now and see if you guys failed the assignment. You guys, there is 470 of you guys in here, and there's only 180 likes. Am I reading this correctly? You guys, like the video. It's free. Help me out. Come on now. And let's also check the poll. Okay, so first, where will Zinchenko play mostly for Arsenal? 57% said left back. 43% said left center mid. It's not quite even, but I think people are coming around to the idea that he'll probably play in midfield a little bit more than originally reported, right? So the next kind of rumor that we'll need to talk about is Artur. He's back. He's back. All right. So obviously we were linked with Artur Melo in January, and because we were desperate, in desperate need of water in the middle of a desert, a lot of people wanted him. I was one of them. Like, here's my thoughts on Artur as a player. I think the Barcelona Juventus swap for him, like him and Pjanic, was one of the most criminal things I've ever seen in football. Um, I just didn't really understand why like that was a thing. And by all accounts, like Barcelona fans really did like Artur. Obviously, he played during a time where Barcelona were not at the peak of their powers. So I'm not about to sit here and act like he was anywhere near Iniesta or anything like that. But by all accounts, a lot of Barcelona fans really liked him. And Artur was also in the Brazilian national team. He won the Copa America with them, and he was a fixture in their team. Then he went to Juventus and his career fell off a cliff, and he never wanted to go. He never wanted to go. And it just shows, like, especially with Barcelona, when you look at what's going on with De Jong, that although I know a lot of players want to go there, there's just some really shady things that happen between that place and Juventus. Like, there's just things that happen there that I've never really seen before. And it's really unfortunate because his career has kind of taken a nosedive since then. Artur, when he's playing well, which he hasn't really played well for Juventus, he hasn't really got that much playing time. But when he's playing well, when we talk about a good ball progressor, kind of like at the base of your midfield that can progress the ball with his dribbling, that's pretty much persistent. That is the type of player Artur is. He's more of a CM/DM than an attacking midfielder, so he's not gonna get you a lot of goals and assists. He's more gonna be somebody that gets you from defense to attack per se, but he is somebody that, could play in a double pivot. He can play as a lone 6. There's different things that he can do. I worry about his, what would it take to rehab a player like this, because he hasn't been playing at the top level for 2 years. So it worries me that he hasn't really been doing much since then. But he's technically gifted. He's really press resistant. You can't get the ball off of him. And we do lack, players that can progress the ball in that way. So, the link, I do think it's an easy link to make. I do believe Kia is his agent. He's Brazilian and he needs a place to go, so it's an easy link to make. And we would need somebody else that can kind of play the Thomas Partey role. Can he do it as good as Thomas? I don't know. But in terms of somebody that can receive it from the back line and be press resistant enough and kind of, you know, evade that kind of initial press and get us beyond that, he can do that. But I know that he's not somebody that would Arsenal fans would be like jumping for joy for, because I mean, basically what you're saying is you're bringing in somebody who is like a Juventus reject. Like that would be the the narrative around him. So, I get that. I do understand that. Now, is he better than Tielemans? Is he better than Paqueta? They're all so different, so I'm not really a big fan of like, is he better than so and so when they're not even similar at all? But I do think with Tielemans being Premier League proven, somebody that we can kind of account for like what kind of player he is, we'd feel more comfortable. Then, yeah, like I would say that that's a better option. But this link is not going away. Like the link is not going away, so we gotta talk about it, but, he's definitely not somebody that people would get excited about. I definitely do think that there would be a little bit of disappointment if we did end up with him. Um, you know, so, and this was coming from I feel so bad for him because that was just like a terrible move that he didn't have any control over like whatsoever. But this was coming from Giaco. I don't know who he is, but he reports like in Serie A, and he was basically just saying that in the last few hours, the Arthur Melo Arsenal court has heated up again, and talks between the two clubs have resumed after negotiations in January. So, yeah, And I think at some point they wanted like 40 million for him. Like, that's a joke. Like, no, ain't nobody gonna, you know, spend that much like on him. It's a joke. Let's see. Saya Banga says, I don't think we will make any business with Juve after what they did to us in January. Well, they didn't do anything to us. Juventus didn't do anything to us in January. Vlahovic's agent did it to us, and Fiorentina. So, Juventus have just had the ear of the players that we've been interested in over the last 2 summers, but Juventus hasn't done anything to us. And if they have a player that you really want, you'll deal with them. That's just the reality of the transfer window. Lynn says Paqueta is very versatile. He can play lots of positions. Artur is more of a DM. Yeah, no, I hear what you're saying about that. Paqueta is more versatile, and I do think that like if you weren't going to go for another attacker, he would be the best option to go for because he can play in those forward positions as well. But we people want another DM, right? Because Thomas Partey is not, always fit, so is that not something that you guys would want, or is it because it's our tour? What kind of DM do you want? Crispy Rice says, I heard our tour could be around 17 million. Let's see, Saida says, I don't think it's fair to call him a Juve reject. Weren't Kulusevski and Bentancur labeled this as well? It's all about how you use the player and the state of the club at the time of the signing. Yeah, no, I do agree. And I do agree. And you guys know, like, for me, with a player, like, obviously, he wouldn't be my number one choice at this point. I would prefer us to go get Tielemans. Like, I've bought into that fully with the Tielemans thing. But I also, like, look at players and look at their circumstances and environment. And I'm like not willing to say players are bad when I know that they're not. I know what type of player Artur is. He's definitely not somebody that's going to get you goals and assists. But at the base of your midfield, could he do something similar of like a Kovacic where get the ball to him and he progresses it and you can't get it off him? Absolutely. So, and can he play alone, like on a lone six? Yes, he can. But do you need to be a possession side? Yeah, absolutely. So it's a different type of look. He's definitely not a crap player. He's been dealt a shitty hand. There's still a lot of people that are calling for a war. And when you look at the two of them, you can look at them and say that they're in quite a similar position where they were kind of at the peak of their powers 2 years ago. Didn't get like Awar didn't get a move. Artur did get one that he didn't really want. And so these two players would need some rehabilitation. I'm not like I don't hate players that you need to rehab. I just wonder how long it would take to get them back to the peak of their powers. That's all it really is, but you know, it, you're looking at Paqueta, he's an attacking midfielder. You look at Tielemans, he's more of a Gundogan type, and then you look at Artur and he's different. So it's like, what are we trying to do? That's I think my question is like, what are we doing? And he says Artur is a gamble, but we know Tielemans would be good. Why take a gamble and why do Juve any favors? Well, that's not how things work. Like if you want a player, you're going to deal with the club, and we don't like I don't really think we should have beef with Juventus. They haven't done anything to us. Who you should have beef with is Vlahovic's agent. It's not Juventus's fault that Vlahovic only wanted to go to them. It's also not Juventus's fault that, Locatelli only wanted to go to them. Maybe we should look at why we're trying to go after players that don't want us. So if they have a player that we really want, we're still going to deal with them, right? So I don't really see it as like doing them any favors, but I do agree with you on the gamble part of things. He's not necessarily somebody that's, playing at his best ability. So how long would it take to get him up to speed? Only the club would really know. Let's see. Imran says Melo is very good at holding the ball, but he is not creative. So we'll need a creative midfielder next to him. I mean, you have Odegaard, you have Vieira, those two are pretty creative. And one of the reports was saying that like now that we've signed Vieira, there's not really there's almost like no way to justify bringing in Paqueta because they're not like 100% similar, but they play in the same positions. So maybe they want to use the money in a different way, in a different position, in a different type of midfield position. Lynn says maybe bringing in Artur would be a good point to prove, and also he wants to come to Arsenal, which helps. He's probably dying to get out of Juventus, like for real. Nitin says, I think Tielemans will be signed, but very late in the window. I hope so. Like, I hope so. So yeah, I think Artur is an interesting one that people are not gonna really be like loving. So there you go. But it is what it is. There's 470 guys in here. Like the video, subscribe to the channel, and just to kind of wrap things up here with Tielemans. Needing to sell a player, cooling interest, having other priorities, to me, just, it could be Arsenal wanting to get the price down. It also could be Arsenal actually were never really that interested in Tielemans. Do I buy into that? I mean, why do almost a year's worth of work to get, him on board to not come and get him? That worries me a little bit. It's kind of like, do we just waste all this time? Now we're looking at other people. I do understand the transfer window is fluid, so certain things happen and you have to turn your attention to different situations. But Tielemans, for me, represented somebody that could actually just really step into Xhaka's position. And that's a big reason why I thought that we would go after him. Not going after him now just stinks of like, well, we have Xhaka, so we don't really need anybody else. So he wouldn't have necessarily helped us in terms of the base of our midfield. Like, he can play in a double pivot, but we know defensively he's not amazing. So there's that. But I do think Tielemans is a quality player that, wants to come to Arsenal. And if the Frankie de Jong deal falls through, that's exactly who Manchester United are going to go out there and get. And if we continue to just kind of sit around and, not really make any moves, he'll go there. I know that, he said he wants to come to Arsenal and he'll wait and he wouldn't go anywhere else. But, if he wants to get out of Leicester, he'll go anywhere, and Manchester United will pay him well and they'll be competing in the same competitions as us. So, I don't think Tielemans is just going to be sitting there all window just waiting for us. Somebody's deals will fall through for other players and they'll start looking at him. So, I do think Arsenal are playing if they are playing the like waiting game, I do think it's a dangerous game to play. But we have to hope that Arsenal know what they're doing. Yeah, I wonder what he's thinking, if he really did think he was going to come to Arsenal and then all of a sudden, we're looking at all these other players and it doesn't look like we're going to come get him. What the hell? But that's just kind of how the window goes. So you guys can let me know in the comment section or in the chat box. Do you think we're playing a waiting game, or do you actually think that we weren't really interested in Tielemans? What is your idea on what's going on with him? Do you think we're going to sign him? Do you think we're, comfortable with the options that we have? Do you think Zinchenko and Vieira signings have made him less of a priority? There's so many different theories that you can come up with, but I'm really interested to know what you guys think, because I think a lot of us had kind of bought into the idea of Tielemans, and now it's like, so what's going on? What's happening? Why is he not here? Because if we wanted him, we could have gotten him here already by now. Let's see. Hakiel says, relax, Jess, we're going to sign Tielemans. Okay. Sahal says, Arsenal better get a left center mid and a winger. Keenan says, I think we are playing a waiting game. It looks like Lyon have dropped Paqueta's price to 34 million. Zach 10 says Tielemans long equals a summer long smokescreen that paid off. Lucas says Tielemans makes sense for Chelsea, to be honest. Elliot Roberts says it would be a mistake for Zinchenko to be our only midfield signing. SMS, Tielemans, or Paqueta is needed, or we will suffer the consequences. Let's see. Jean Rene says, apparently we're constantly in communication with Tielemans, so that eases my mind. I think he is coming. Fair enough. Herbert says, doesn't matter who else we sign, will fail due to Arteta, 400 million already spent and mostly wasted. Okay. Wayne Elliott says, I think we're trying to get Tielemans to force a move after we see how much we have left after we made our signings in case we are short of funds. I mean, we may, just be waiting it out and need to also sell some players as well, you know. So I do believe that selling players is going to be important still. Um, and we haven't sold anybody yet, holding out firm on Burn Leno. Nobody wants anybody, the rest of our players. So we definitely may need to sell some players before, but yeah, we'll definitely see like what happens with the Tielemans thing. But I just don't think waiting until the end of the window. I know maybe they feel like they have full buy-in from him, but if it doesn't look like we're gonna go get him, you know, anything can change. You can think you're gonna get a player, and then all of a sudden he ends up going somewhere else. Imran says it appears that Arteta is not fully convinced with Tielemans. Otherwise, that deal would have been done already. Well, we also waited until the very last day to go get Thomas Partey because we wanted to see what was going to happen with OR. So um, we only had a certain amount of money in that window, and I do think that had we had been able to get OR, we may have not gotten Thomas Partey. So it may just be a matter of like, okay, well, let's see what else we can get done. If we can't get those things, then we'll maybe come back for Tielemans. Who knows? These are all just theories at this point because nobody really knows what's going on. Let's see. Oh, hold on, you guys. What's going on? My computer just froze. Uh-oh. Hold on, you guys. Oh, there you go. I was like, no. Yeah, you guys, there's 500 of you guys watching. Like the video, subscribe to the channel. Nitin says, with all these signings, our window is 8 out of 10. It will be a 10 out of 10 only when we're able to move most of those dead woods. There's also, Pepe is on the radar of some clubs, so that should help, move things along in some ways. Hopefully. Les Des says Thomas Partey's house is up for sale. Okay. I don't believe any of that, like houses for sales and all that kind of stuff. I just think people just say anything these days. Dylan says, I think the real reason is getting reduced price for Tielemans and force Leicester to accept our bid rather than a ridiculous 50 mil. Keenan says, an elite wide forward would make this window a 10 out of 10. Yeah, I do think that we a wide forward of a certain level would definitely ease the blow of not getting another midfielder. But does that player exist? I know that, people are hoping that Sané is a option. I'm going to say this right now that I do think that the Arsenal fan base have made this up. Very similarly to Nabry, we think there's, Sané looks like he might leave. I don't know if he's going to leave Bayern Munich. I don't know if he'll leave Bayern Munich to come to Arsenal. And I don't really believe these rumors. I really think we made them up. So, if it's not a Sané, if it's not a Gnabry, then who are we going to get? And like Moussa Diaby, I know like Keenan has said that he really likes him. I like him, but like, is he that good? Is he that good? Is he going to move the needle? I'm not sure. So I don't know. And I also do think that Fabrizio Romano knows who the person is. I think that's also why keeps saying that Paqueta and Tielemans are not the priority right now. I do think he knows who the player is, but he can't say it yet. One thing I'll say about Fabrizio Romano this summer is that he has been on the pulse of Arsenal transfer rumors more so than Ornstein. So I think he knows who it is. Nobody's saying anything, and it better be freaking exciting because, it can't just be like, oh yeah, we just signed Noah Lang. Oh my gosh. Like, No. 6 million says, Jess, I thought it was just me, but I don't see the hype with Diaby at all. Screams Pepe part two. Yeah, it's like, it's just something about that just feels like, is he that much better than like what we already have? Like, I'm not sure. Like, because I think if you put Saka and Martinelli in the Bundesliga, they would score 20 something goals a season. Like, I don't think it's that difficult of a league. So is he that much better than what we have? I'm not sure. Is 55 million too much for somebody like that? Would you have rather have gotten a midfielder for that? Maybe, so it's just, yeah, I'm not sure. Neil says Leicester want 35 million for Tielemans. Where did 50 million come from? We reportedly want to pay 25 million. Leicester want close to what they paid for him. So yeah, I mean, there's still a chance that we might sign Tielemans. It's just a matter of like, we just have to wait it out. The season does start in like 3 weeks, so it would be nice if we got another signing over the line, but I think it'll be something that just comes out of nowhere. But yeah, we're gonna go ahead and end it there. Let's see what the poll ended up being. 58% left back, 42% left center mid. Let me know in the comment section what you guys think about Zinchenko signing. What midfielder would you like to see come in? All that stuff. Make sure you guys like the video, subscribe to the channel again. This was a great stream. Almost 500 of you guys in here. 312 of you guys liked the video, which is much better than the like 200. That was like 200. You guys, come on. But make sure you guys like the video, subscribe to the channel, share this with a friend, and we'll just keep it rolling. All right. See you guys maybe tomorrow. Bye, y'all.